Cheers.
Cheers,
Yeah.
some water.
I love cheering to water.
Cheers to the official sponsor of the podcast, Liquid Death.
Is it?
No, but maybe one day.
Maybe one day. Just start with the little guys, you know.
Yeah.
Balancing. I'll sponsor some podcasts.
Okay, let's go.
Yeah, we'll sponsor some podcasts. We'll go with some dog training videos and stuff. Yeah,
okay,
why
that'd be
not?
cool for sure.
Yeah, everyone's got dogs, right?
Yeah, most people.
Most people,
or maybe a cat.
or a cat. But yeah, same concept, same thing.
Yeah. So do you actually? Is it very similar? Do you train cats before? Or you're mostly dogs, I know, but
Yeah, so I started, and I do. Obviously, all I do is work with dogs. Professionally, people that come to me for their dogs, but then there'll be random situations where those people have cats in the mix.
Okay, yeah.
And the dogs and cats have to interact and coexist, and they need to figure out a way to make it so that no matter how much we train the dog, if now the cat is still
attacking it, not behaving well.
Yeah, amping them up and turning them into Cujo. Now it becomes it becomes an interesting thing for the owner, because now they're like, well, my dog is behaving, and now the cat's screwing everything up. So there are ways that we can apply the same principles, just because I think principles are of nature and of life apply in basically everything, and you can see it immediately when you're working with animals that can't really speak back to you and can't give you false feedback. You know what I mean? Like, they can't lie to you.
Yeah,
they're just doing it.
Yeah. They're not trying to put on a show usually.
Yeah, exactly. They don't care.
Yeah.
Right. So it's super interesting, especially the first time actually it happened. I went to someone's house and they were like, "Hey, our cat, we need to put our cat away because our cat will just basically attack you, maul you. Doesn't like
need to put it away while you're in the house,
while we're working with the dog.
Yeah. Okay.
So they needed to put the cat away while we work with the dogs. And I do this thing, and you know, a few years ago or whatever it was, pretty long time ago, probably now. I worked with you and your roommates and your little dog crew, and I do this thing.
We had
where
a pack of
you
5
had a whole
dogs.
pack. Yeah. So I do this whole thing where I create space at the doorway and teach them not to bolt out the door and not to scuffle if they're scuffling and random things like that.
Jump on you when you first walk in.
Yeah. So the principle of all of those things is the same. Is you want to take up space and you want to show them that that space is not necessarily theirs to do what they were about to do, whether it's a playful thing or a not so playful thing.
Okay, yeah. So would you say that's like one of the primary principles, taking up space?
Taking up space. Yeah. So we all take up space,
and
right?
so take up space, you mean like literally like a posture?
Whether the posture helps, right? So it's just like with people, and you're walking around a crowded area, the people that have the best posture are likely moving and avoiding less. And the people that are not super postured
maybe head down, shoulders crouched,
are typically avoiding and trying to stay out of people's way. Right. So it becomes a dynamic of again, just kind of the rules of nature.
Yeah.
That, of course, posture helps, but then there's also skills that can help you improve your posture, because a lot of times your posture comes from like what your subconscious is telling you, and like, do you believe in yourself of what you're doing?
Exactly.
So
maybe your posture is shit, and then you're like just not feeling good all day. Have you ever read the 12 Rules for Life?
Yeah.
Yeah. The first chapter, is stand up straight with your shoulders back.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's all about lobsters, about how they posture on each other. And it has like a direct correlation to whatever that chemical that has to do with depression in your brain is. And the ones with the best postures are the most successful in their territories, the most successful in mating. And
they take up the most space, right?
They take up the most space, just the posturing out on people. Just be, what's up, motherfucker?
Correct. Yeah, so they take up the most space.
Yeah.
So
if you look at like, sorry to interrupt. If you look at,
it's okay.
If you look at like Conor McGregor has like one of the most like just straight up postures you can imagine.
Yep.
And he's always flexing on every motherfucker that he meets.
Yep. Yeah, so it's an idea of wanting to take up space, right?
Yeah.
And that taking up space works with a dog or a cat or a lobster.
Yeah.
Right? Or a duck.
Yeah.
Right? So it's all so similar that when you look at it in that fundamental way, now you have a cat that's charging me, you know, going back to the quick story, the cat that charged me, boom, I stop it the same way that I would stop a dog charging at me. The cat, leaves and realizes this guy has his space.
Yeah.
10 minutes later, that thing cuddles up next to me like I'm its best friend.
Oh,
and
yeah.
These people are like, whoa, what the hell? My cat's never even let a fucking another person pet her. And here you are.
Best friends already.
Best friends.
And with a cat too, because a dog will make easy friends with you. Like in most cases, a lot of dogs will just be like best friends with everyone. A cat will not give a fuck. Like if a cat likes you, you've really done something right.
Yeah, there you go. Right. So they definitely have, obviously, just like every person, right? We all have different levels of what we tolerate and what we accept in our lives and our friend circles and all that kind of stuff. So cats and dogs probably have a different level of like how they like you.
Yeah.
Like, what do you do to me that makes me like you, right? But I think that in general, you know, whether it's a relationship with the dog, a human, a cat, anything, setting some set of boundaries and, you know, showing each other like, hey, I'm going to be the best me for you. You be the best you for me. Right. So it becomes a super serendipitous relationship when everything works out because you're just taking care of your basic shit.
Yeah. And also too, it's like if you establish that boundary early, it hasn't been taken over multiple times to the point where now you're like freaking out. You're like, fucking goddamn it. If you just establish your boundaries and then affirm with them, it's like, I guess with relationships with people too. It's like, that's how people get into, you know, maybe abusive relationships, or
for sure.
That's how kids just run rampant when the parents, when you're looking at like kids with parents, you're like, what the fuck? It's because they've pushed boundaries and now to the point where, and probably cats and dogs and kids are always trying to see where that boundary is. So you got to make sure you're able to set it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, they're definitely, I mean, in my experience, they're definitely, which is many years of working with some of the most challenging dogs to the, you know, super puppy dogs, right?
Yeah.
But it's exactly that. They're constantly testing their limits, constantly seeing what they can get away with and who they can get away with it.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, oh, I can get away with, like you were just telling me with the cat downstairs, right? It's like, oh,
she loves me more.
Yeah, sure. She loves you more. She can get away with different things with you than she can with your girlfriend. She can get away with different things with a guest than she can with you, right? So they're going to treat everyone a little differently.
Yeah.
So, you know, kind of my job and my, you know, what I do with people is help them understand and build a kind of an awareness, first of all, of like everything that you do is impacting, you know, the relationship you have with your dog or with your creature, and the communication that you have. Oh, good morning, babe, is just as important as the big conversation about let's move, or let's move in together, or let's realize that we're going to get the bidet or not, or you know what I mean, like the random little things, they all kind of come together.
All the conversations are important.
Yep, they all come together. So when you start it off in a way that's, I'm going to wait, like you were saying, I'm going to wait for an explosion, for example, that just it almost feels like you're trying to take control, but you're just being overly emotional versus having a logical output and input on it.
Yeah. And reality too, it's like you've maybe like, it's like almost like if I scratch you, it's not that big a deal. But if I scratch you again and again and again, by like the 15th scratch, you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
Stop
why are you keep doing this? Yeah.
Yeah, unless you, when you could have just said from the first one, hey, I don't really like that. It's not a huge deal, but please don't do that again. And then it ends at that.
Yep.
But it's like it slowly is just chipping at you to the point where you have this real emotional outburst. And it's unnecessary if you were just clearing your
immediate destruction.
Yeah, exactly.
And the same exact thing happens with the dogs. The same exact thing happens probably if you're rolling with somebody where it's like, hey, this is just getting annoying for me, and I'm not going to tell them that this is an annoying thing, like whatever, they're grabbing your fingers or something like that. And eventually you just get pissed off, and maybe they don't. Now they leave your gym, or they don't want to roll with you because you hurt, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
The same concept applies in every conversation and every relationship, right? So I think that's where kind of the beauty of like learning about anything really is, like once you've learned how to figure things out in a certain art, because everything can be art, right? Once you learn how to figure it out, then you realize like, oh, I can learn this style in a new thing, whether I'm learning to, you know, play jujitsu, whether I'm learning to shoot a bow and arrow, whether I'm learning to work with my dog.
Yeah.
It's all skill development.
Yeah. For sure.
From my experience, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, there's so much overlap to all of it. Yeah. That's why I always think that like either jujitsu is life or like chess is life, because there's so much overlap. It's all about like decision making, and then like jujitsu is great as far as it teaches you, hey, you're a beginner, you don't really know much. Once all it takes is just time and figuring it out, and then you can become very good at something. And so like in anything, as long as you dedicate the time towards it and try to become better at it, anyone can become better.
Yeah, fuck yeah. And I mean, again, it's like when you put that into, you know, obviously this is what I do, is I help people connect with their dogs better and help them get rid of bad behaviors, right? So whether it's a bad behavior or you came to me because there was some sort of, you know, you go to the jiu-jitsu gym because you just got beat up and you want to learn self-defense, right? There's like a disaster that happens in your life. Right? It's like, this is like
mugged in the street.
Yeah, so it's almost like what are the reasons why people want to change and get better at something?
Okay, yeah, maybe their dog bit someone.
Maybe their dog bit someone, maybe their dog bolted out the door, maybe, you know, there's like the worst case scenario of like all-out brawl and hospital visits and possible dead dogs and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Which, you know,
or biting like children or something.
Biting kids, absolutely.
Yeah, it could be very bad. Have you dealt with some cujos before?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Some, like serious?
Yeah, man, absolutely. I mean, when I first got started, that's what I worked with to get my name out there.
Yeah.
You know, you learn.
Oh, you do like the worst dogs.
Yeah. Yeah, because you want to get want to get out there.
Yeah, and prove that it works.
Prove
you
that
don't
it
wanna,
works.
like do it to some dog that's like mostly fine.
Yeah, and I think also prove that you're capable.
Yeah, it's like a challenge for yourself.
Yeah, to yourself. Can I? Yeah, to yourself, and then that eventually feeds off into the world, right? Because when you want to be able to do this, you know, whether it's for a living or because it's a passion of yours, whatever it is, you have to prove to yourself first that you're capable.
For sure.
Before you take on the journey of I want to make, you know, have less dogs get put down a year because of what I'm doing is helping dogs stay in homes, which is helping them not go into shelters, which is helping them not get. Right. So there's like a trickling effect of whatever it is, whatever it is that you're doing, right? So then the purpose becomes so broad of like, how can I help them the best way that I can, right? So I worked with immediately the most aggressive of dogs because
how do you find those people?
Yeah, so it's interesting because they actually unconsciously and out of the blue, whatever, God or the universe, they just find you because you. So the way I got started was my parents basically cut me off from all things. I was partying a lot in school, and they said, "Hey, come home, or deal with it. Figure out your life.
No more financial help.
We're not going to help you anymore.
You're not going to just fund your party addiction.
Yeah. So no helping anymore, right?
Yeah.
So it became something where it's like, okay, I got to figure this out. Someone recommended dog walking. I started dog walking. As you do that kind of stuff, naturally people will call you and be like, hey, I need you to help me with, you know, watch my dog or walk my dog, but they're aggressive.
Yeah.
Right. But they don't like people. They don't like, you know, whatever. They don't like the other dogs. You can't walk them past the dog or something like that. So I started to see a connection of how can I bring more value. Yeah. You know, because after things like your parents cutting you off, some sort of disaster happened in my life. Yeah. It inspired change.
Got to figure out a way to do something.
Exactly. It inspires good thing. It inspires change in your life, right? Whether it comes from like I have this desire to become this awesome person or like, oh shit, something happened and now I have to.
Yeah, exactly. I got to pay rent and do something somehow.
Yeah. I got to feed myself, got to feed my dog. Whatever's happening, right? My cat, you know, I got to be able to take my girlfriend out at least one date a month. Yeah. Like bare minimum or else she's gone.
For sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So these things start to, you know, either weigh on you in a way that's like, oh, you know, fuck life. And I just want to keep going downhill. Or it's like, oh, hey, this is a challenge for me that I have to overcome.
Well, that's a really good point, too. It is often like a disastrous thing that happens where you have a decision at that moment of like, okay, do I sulk and say, woe is me, this is so horrible, this has happened, what am I going to do? Or do you say, hey, now I've got to make a change, I got to do something? Like, I've always felt like depression is just your body's way of saying like, hey, stuff's not going well in your life right now. You need to make a change. You need to do something to fix this. Otherwise, you know, it's just going to continue like this. It's not, usually not the answer. I don't think in most cases just to take a pill or do something like that. I feel like all of these are just indicators in your life, and it doesn't necessarily have to be depression. It could be whatever. Like I fucking crashed my car and I don't have enough money to fix it. Okay, great. You could just say, I don't have a car now. I'm going to take the bus, and maybe you have to do that temporarily. But you could just, you know, sulk in how shitty this is right now, or you can say, hey, I don't want this to fucking happen again. I got to go out and make more money so I never have to worry about, you know, not being able to fix my car.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's and when it is the disaster, it feels like it hits harder sometimes, right? Versus like ever since I was 5 years old, I've always wanted to be a dog trainer, and I've always wanted right? So
exactly,
it's like I've always wanted to be the master, you know, puppeteer or whatever it is that I
think it's less likely that those are the cases, you know?
It's so much less likely. So it doesn't hit as hard, right? But then it hits super hard when it's like, oh shit.
Yeah, got to do something.
My parents don't want to pay for anything anymore. They don't want to support anything anymore unless I completely live under their rules and structure. And at this point,
and that's not worth it for you.
Exactly.
You got to make a decision.
You got to grow up.
So it started with dog walking. You had like some aggressive dogs, and then did you go out and seek like certain ones, or did they all kind of come to you?
So what happened? I guess the first one, a friend of mine just said, "Hey, you know, you're gonna see dogs like this. Start watching the Dog Whisperer, guy. You know, watch the show. Right? It's a different name now, but it's the Dog Whisperer. When I started watching it and kind of dissected like
what's that guy's name again?
Caesar Milan.
Caesar,
yeah. So I watched it, worked with the like ideas, you know, got some of his videos and tried to seek like the knowledge on how to be able to work with these people, because even if it wasn't to become a trainer, right, the more aggressive dogs I can work with, the more dogs I can work with, the more money I can make, the more impact I can make. The flow just keeps going, right? So I then learned how to do it, and I was like, all right, cool. These people call me, and I'm going to give them like a free evaluation. I'm just going to go meet their dog. I'm just going to figure out how to do this. And the first like immediate one that comes to mind was a big pit bull where these people were going out of town, and I was like, okay, cool. I'll come meet your dog. I go to their house. The dog is, barking, growling, lunging at me. They got it on a leash. I was like, all right, great. Put the dog in the backyard. let's chat for a minute. We kind of sat down like this, had our own little interview of what's going on.
Yeah.
You know, here are the big mistakes that most people are making that you're probably making. Here are some things that led you to this point, right? Because obviously that at this stage, they weren't necessarily seeking me for this. So I don't know that they cared super. I don't think that they cared that much about like what I was talking about, but they obviously they love their dog, right?
Yeah.
So they needed someone to watch
figure it out.
Yeah. So they were totally willing to take it on and listen.
Yeah.
And at that point, I was so new to this, I brought an iPad with me that had like notes to
Nice
make sure I didn't fuck up.
Yeah, exactly. You're gonna have main points that you want to remember. You don't make sure you skip over it.
Yeah, don't
and
make
so
sure.
was the original intention just for you to watch it for the week, and you're like, hey, maybe these are some corrective actions.
Yeah, so the original intention was to watch it for the week, and I just used it as an opportunity because I had never done like a dog training appointment, right?
Yeah.
So I used it as an opportunity to be like, hey, let me just do this with you.
Yeah,
Right.
if it's free just to talk about, it's like,
Yeah,
fuck
exactly.
it. They've got a
Exactly.
horrible dog. They got to do something about it.
So it's like I use them as training partners.
Yeah. I was just making sure everything's on.
Okay, cool.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's all good.
Sometimes
what
I
I
was
do.
like,
Is someone in here with us?
No, sometimes like 30 minutes goes by and I'm like, fuck, one of them's off.
All right, no worries. Good. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So I used them essentially as training partners, right? But they were unwilling. They didn't know that it was happening. It was like, hey, I want to work. Probably you have positions that you work, and you have people that are easier. If no one's gonna be like, oh, I don't want a positional mount with you because positional mounting with Joey sucks, and it's so much pressure, and I just don't want to do it. So you kind of, if you want to work those positions, you sometimes have to give yourself the opportunity.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Right?
Yeah,
So,
get mounted or
just
whatever. Or take mount. Like I'm looking for
exactly.
it. Yeah.
Either way, a back or forth. If you'd rather, if you want to get mounted or if you want to take the mount.
So in
right?
this situation, you're like, I don't get many dog appointments.
Yeah,
Here's
exactly.
An
Here's my opportunity to work a positional round with an aggressive dog.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, and work the consultation.
And work the whole one-on-one meeting thing, and something that I had not done in the past.
Yeah,
right?
all of it takes practice. People think that like,
oh yeah, of course.
So much of it is like skill building in areas that you never imagined you'd have to skill build.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, there's so much more behind that also, like the marketing of it and the getting your name out there eventually. But so I chat with her for whatever, 20, 30 minutes about why I think this is happening, how I can help her. I was like, okay, now you stay here. I'm gonna get the dog, just like verbatim how the Caesar did it on the show. Just just like you said to me, like how did you set up the podcast? Not too much trial and error, right?
Yeah.
You've watched somebody and learned from somebody, and they kind of gave you inputs, right? Whether it was someone that you can directly communicate with, or you just watch videos.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not super relevant when you're just getting started, right? You're like, oh, cool, I can take your input from anywhere in the world now.
You're just a complete white belt. There's
Correct.
basics out there. You can figure out like, okay, well, this is how this guy did it. Let's just give that a go.
So I just went ahead and like with full on confidence went out there with my iPad as a little shield, just in case, right? Because he used to go in the show with like a little tennis racket if the dogs try to bite him, and if they get the tennis racket, they're like, well, he doesn't care.
Yeah.
So the dog immediately went after me and like lunged at me. I put the iPod down. It bonked its nose on the iPad. Took a step back and just kind of sat there, and then my brain was like, okay, well now, just like you're learning a new language, like, okay, what comes next? Like, what's the word? What's the word after hello? Like, is it nice to meet? Right, nice to meet you, right? So then it's like, here's a leash. So now it's like put a leash on, and then okay, what's the next level of this conversation or the next move in this sequence, right? So it became like a very from memory, what did I watch over and over and over and over? And
so
let me
took
try
the bonk, and then what was after that?
And then I just walked the dog around in circles, and the dog was like, "Oh, cool! This guy knows what he's doing." Yeah, it was pretty quick.
Oh wow!
And then I brought the dog inside, and immediately the owner starts crying.
Oh,
and it's
really?
like, wow, this is not what I expected from a pet sitting.
Yeah,
from a pet sitting consultation.
Yeah, right.
And I was like, fuck yeah, this is what I'm here for.
Hell yeah! Nice.
After that moment, and then I just kept trying to get better and better and better, just like you would in anything, right? You've got these obsessions, and you have these times where you obsess over them for whatever, weeks and months and years at a time.
Yeah.
And
this was your first real at bat, and you fucking knocked it out of the park. You're like, that was sick. Hell yeah.
Totally. And then I got bit a bunch after.
Yeah.
Not from that dog, but exactly. From learning, trial and error, of course. It's not always that easy. But,
and especially with like a real Cujo coming at you.
And that's something that you learn, right? It's like even if you enter a new skill and you're like, oh, I'm pretty good at this, but then it's like, oh, wow, I'm actually not as good as I thought I was.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. There's different situations. Everyone's not going to be the exact same.
Correct.
Maybe even the parents aren't like as like receptive for the conversation initially. That doesn't go well. Then it puts you in like you're kind of forcing it. It's like it changes the whole mood.
Yep.
So would it ever be your recommendation to it's like, fuck, it's not looking good. Maybe we just got to put her down.
Yeah. So put her down, I think is an extreme one, and for some cases it's not out of the question.
Yeah.
Because you have to look at a risk and
It's
reward.
molded seventh kid so far.
Yeah, you got to look at risk and reward of what you're doing with this dog and what kind of life it's capable of living with, you know, the situation that it's in. And if you really don't want to give this dog to a new owner that it's more likely to succeed with.
Yeah.
Which is usually ideally the better option, right?
Ooh,
it's
really?
like,
Giving it away.
Yeah, giving it to somebody or you know, obviously going through a process of making sure it doesn't go into horrible situations and all that stuff, right? So it's like, it's such a challenging thing for people to rehome a dog, and then it becomes a challenging thing emotionally for the family, you know, to give up. But when
usually that's probably the better step.
Yeah,
first.
it's usually the first
come from
look.
like an unwillingness to like do the things necessary to train it.
Not always. No, I think it comes from there's a family mentality also where it's like you can only control kids so much. I mean, we have free will as humans, and there are things that like kids will do to encourage dogs to bite them. You know what I mean? So it's like no matter how much you work with this dog, and it can be the best dog ever, unless you are fully committed to everything all the time. Your dog is never unsupervised with your kid. Your kid is never, you know, smacking
maybe
the
it's
dog.
just not worth it.
Exactly. So it becomes a risk and reward of like, well, are you ever going to leave? You know, are you ever going to turn your back, and all of a sudden your kid has the dog's tail?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? So there's things like that we can only assume we're all humans.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and usually you're probably going to choose your kid over your dog.
Usually. So then it becomes something of like, okay, how can we rehome it to a family that does make sense with? If that is something that is possible, and then if, you know, obviously worst case scenario, if it's like, hey, nobody can handle this and it's not ready to be, because there's the dog training part of it, right? Everyone always thinks that's like, oh, train the people. It's like, yeah, for sure. You have to train the people.
Yeah.
But there's also a dog here, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I can teach you how to drive, but if I put you in a car that needs service, it's not going to be as you know, as efficient. Right? So then it becomes something that it's like, okay, if we can't find the right home, and if the dog really is too dangerous for the lifestyle, then that sometimes is for every kid situation, sometimes is the best thing to do. So it's not going through this
like worst case scenario.
Yeah. So it's not going through this just cycle of finding new people and then biting them and then being locked up in a cage for hours and, you know, pissing and shitting on itself. And I mean, it becomes a super shitty situation. So it's like,
it would make sense to try a rehome before,
of course,
like as first step, because also too maybe like a dynamic is established.
Correct.
Like they've like established that they're gonna, you know, bully their owner and they're not gonna listen to it. And
100%.
It is tough to overcome that if it's like at an extreme level.
Yeah. So there's always a way to maintain and manage stuff, but then again, it becomes, you know, how in your particular lifestyle, how confident are you in being able to do that forever with this dog?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And
if you're
not
been living 2 years or however long in your current set, you've got to like change how you behave with it. Yeah, all the time. Yeah.
So if you're not ready to do that, and somebody else might be, and somebody else might be, you know, maybe they're somebody who's just like, when I got started, I would take on tough dogs.
Sorry.
All good, dude. All good. If you need to answer it, you go ahead. This is your show, brother. But we got, you know, you got tough dogs that you're working with, and it's like, hey, I will take dogs in when I first got started. So there are some people that you know, I actually have some clients that we worked with them a lot, and their dogs were randomly getting into scuffles, and they had kids come over once in a while, and they were just realistic with what they were doing, and like, hey, we can't necessarily handle this type of dog in our lifestyle, right? Because dogs are all going to be, while the principles are all the same, they're going to respond to them differently, the same way that, you know, you're going to have a bunch of white belts coming in on the same day, and one of them is going to be super timid, and one of them is going to be super aggressive, and one of them is going to be super loosey-goosey, right? So there's different variety of dog.
For sure, yeah.
The same way that there are different variety of people.
Personalities,
Yeah, exactly. So that all is real and happens. So it's like once you find a situation where it's like, oh, this person is capable, and you know, they have a better setup, they have separation, they have crates set up, they've got dog runs set up, you know,
maybe
now
more yard space, and when you're in an apartment,
they've got things that make it easier for them to maintain and manage that type of behavior. So of course that's always going to be the best option, you know, hands down. But there are sometimes unfortunate times where you have to go to the worst case scenario.
Wow. So have you taken in dogs occasionally?
Not anymore. So I find that I did in the past when I like first got started, but it becomes, there's just so many that people just want to give up before they even try. You know, there's like, I've given her all she's got, right? And then
so no, you haven't.
Yeah, no, well, there's this, I don't remember if it's on Family Guy or like American Dad or one of the things. Yeah, and he's like, oh, it turns out I wasn't giving her all she's got. There's another lever.
I could have actually been giving her a lot more.
Yeah, you've seen that, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, that's basically what most people come to me is like, oh, I've tried everything.
Yeah, man, no, you haven't.
But no, you haven't, because you didn't try this one little thing that I'm about to show you that
Can make a huge difference.
Can make a huge, I mean, the pet corrector, little spray can, right? Like huge difference in most people's lives with their dogs. Some people, that's all they need.
Yeah.
Right.
Just
even,
a little thing.
Yeah. Is even when, like, cause they're not really walking their dog to, Starbucks. They're not, they're not going on hikes with their dog. They're not doing all that crazy stuff. Their dog's just in their house and they got friends coming over and their dog jumps on their friends. Right. So it's like, there's so simple, so basic, right? But it's like, it's ruining their life.
Yeah.
Because they can't have certain friends over that are afraid of their dog. They can't, or when those people do come over, their dog has to live this life of locked up and scratching and whining.
Yeah, exactly.
And
doesn't handle that well.
Exactly.
Either. Yeah.
So it's like because we're not inducing stress on a regular basis in productive ways, the same way that you would with your physical and mental health, the same way that you would with your relationship health with anybody. You have to induce levels of stress that make sense and that are manageable.
Like, you mean inducing it to the animal?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then it, again, a principle of nature, right? Is like, how do you make anything stronger? What is in that book? What does he talk about with the 12 rules with the lobster? Like, why do they grow from their shell? Right? It's because it's so tight and stressful, and they have to get out of it,
and then let it form a new shell.
Correct.
Yeah.
They've got to grow. Yeah. Right. So how do you grow is with stress.
Yeah.
Bottom line. Right. No matter, there's very few things that you can get better at.
Yeah. You build muscle by breaking it down, like hurting it, and then that builds stronger.
Correct. And you rest and recoup and recover, and then you get stronger. Yeah. Right. So
how do you stress a dog out in the proper way?
In the proper way. Yeah. Happily. And this is for everyone. If you're watching, do this. Like, if you're in your house, do this with your dog, and you'll see some amazing results right away, right? And it's going to be super awesome and super beneficial for the bond that you have, even if it's already a strong one, right? So as dogs, they are, and as humans, we are creatures of pattern, and they will pick up on our patterns much more quickly than we know that we're even doing them.
Okay, yeah.
So the easiest example is grabbing a leash or a set of keys or shoes. Or
they know it's like time to go.
They know what's coming next usually, right?
Yeah.
But they don't really.
Yeah.
Because we're the human that has the conscious, I can use my imagination.
Maybe I just moved my leash over here. It was in the wrong place.
Exactly.
Fucking leash.
It's the leash. Let's go for it, Dad. Come on. I'm ready for this, right? But if you just grab your leash and you do it also with the intention of doing it this way, right? Because you can go do something without knowing that you're doing it, and you won't get the same value as if you're like, oh, I know why I'm doing this, right? So grabbing the leash, putting it around your shoulders, and watching a movie. And don't acknowledge your dog's.
Like, what the hell?
Yeah, don't even acknowledge your dog's confusion either, right?
Yeah.
Don't say good boy, don't say bad boy, don't don't tell him not to jump on you, like don't do any of that. Just literally grab the leash and be so engulfed.
Just ignore him.
Yeah, and even more than ignore, like be so busy doing something else that you don't even think about ignoring them.
Yeah, okay, huh?
Right, because
like you're really just trying to it's almost like meditation. You're trying to not even give it thought.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because once you give ignoring it thought, you're not ignoring it anymore. Like you can't ignore something by saying I'm ignoring it. I'm ignoring it. I'm ignoring it.
It's like, don't think about a white elephant. It's like, okay, don't think white elephant. Don't think white elephant. It's like all you're thinking about.
Exactly. It's all you think about, right? So you can't really think about ignoring them, which is a whole concept on its own. Yeah, its own practice, right? So a way to help speed that process up in this particular scenario would be get distracted. Start scrolling through your phone. Start, call your mom. Whatever. Have a conversation with somebody. Watch a movie. Listen to a podcast. Do something that makes you go like, oh, I can have this leash around my shoulders while I make myself breakfast. Like, that's easy. I'm a human being. I can walk and chew gum at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. And so what would be the benefit of that for the dog?
Yes. Yeah. So the benefit for the dog now becomes immediate because the dog's anticipation of what's coming next is typically geared towards excitement, right? And most of the time, our dogs are misbehaving because they have low self-control of that excitement threshold.
Oh, I gotcha. Yeah,
right.
They're getting too hyped up.
They're getting too hyped up when someone comes over.
When the doorbell rings or when something knocks. Yeah,
when someone walks by, when a bird takes a shit. I mean, they just get so hyped up over every little change.
Yeah, right.
Right. So because that's so easy to recreate. Right, you don't need to be in competition every day to get better.
Yeah, for sure.
Right, and competition is the walk in this case. Right,
exactly.
It's like just leaving the door.
Yeah, it's good for them to be hyped up in certain situations, but you don't need to do it every time someone knocks on the door or minor things that could cause inconvenience.
Yeah, and it also makes the dog look at you as like, oh, I thought I knew everything about you.
Yeah,
like, oh, dude, I thought I knew that when you grab the toothbrush, you brush your teeth, but but now when you grab the toothbrush, you're brushing my teeth. What's going on here?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it becomes an immediate. You become very interesting as a human being to the dog.
Yeah.
Because if you're always doing the same thing, now eventually you're boring.
Yeah. And they're not paying attention to you as much.
Yeah.
One thing. I don't want to.
To your point on paying attention, and again, what's the goal for most humans when they if you want to enjoy your dog to the fullest, like take them with you places, right?
Yeah.
You know, whether you're camping or just going for a walk in a public area, they got to pay attention to you.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Right? Because otherwise you'll lose your dog.
Exactly. And if they're not, if they have given zero fucks about you, they're off running.
They're off running. Dogs die all the time, but, you know, running into like Yellowstone.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you don't want to have that experience ever.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? But you can't expect to practice that out there.
Yeah, for sure.
So
yeah,
adding
it's
those
got to be
little
like
bits.
established before you go.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm really curious if like my dog Molly, which you met back in the day, like I got her since a puppy. She was 8 weeks old. It's the only dog that I've solely raised by myself from a puppy to adult. And I don't know if I've got lucky or if it was because of my way I interacted with her or maybe a combination of both. But she was like such a good listener that like, especially when she was a puppy and like we were, you know, when she got older and she was just living at my mom's place, I think she got like a little bit more loosey-goosey in her and like how much she was listening all the time.
Yeah,
but
slow down the response rate a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. But like, especially initially, like I could walk around Walmart with her, like, and she would stay at my hip without a leash if I wanted her to. Like she would just stay right with me. If I ever go on walks with her, it was never with a leash, and I couldn't lose her if I tried. Like I would like hide behind a tree while she wasn't looking, and then all of a sudden she's like, "Where the fuck did he go?"
Yeah, where'd he go? Yeah.
Like she was constantly on. And then if we were walking because I live right next to a golf course, so we're walking on a golf course. No matter what, like every 30 seconds, a minute, she's constantly just looking around.
Always checking.
Yeah, checking to see I'm within range again. So
sure. So there's a couple pieces I think to that are you know, whether they're important to you or not is irrelevant, but important to just understanding what actually is happening. You could have just gotten super lucky and done everything right without knowing.
Yeah.
Some people do that, right? It's like everything just, I did it right. You know, my dog is fully...
I'm just a great dog dad.
Yeah, exactly. You're just a naturally good dog dad, which is super possible. Most people, if they just set a couple boundaries and just live their life with their dog's probably not going to be that bad.
Yeah.
Right? There might be little things here and there, like when they move in with somebody, right? That like, oh, how do I deal with this? Like, this is more serious than just like my dog randomly barking. So,
yeah, for sure.
So you might have done that. There also could have been like a level of unhealthy connection. Right?
Oh,
where
okay.
it's like
she's obsessed with me.
Yeah, obsessed with you. Where it's like, and not saying what it was. I can't say. Obviously, I didn't see. But there is a lot of times, and there are a lot of times where the dog's just so connected that if we were together, you know, at an outdoor patio having some beers, and your dog was with us, and you had to go take a piss.
Yeah, she's like upset that I'm gone.
Yeah, she's screaming, she's whining, she's trying every which way to get to her.
Yeah,
you know, to get to, like in Beethoven, right, when he sees the old movie, right, where
I don't think I've seen it.
Well, there's a big dog, Beethoven. You know the dog at least. I hope.
Yeah,
the Saint Bernard, right? So he's just pissed off that he sees his person and he's all chained up to the thing.
Can't get to it.
Yeah, and just coincidentally, his person happens to be being, you know, getting upset at this man that's trying to hit on her, right? So she's like anxiously trying to get back to her and knocks the whole building over and saves the day and all that. So, but it can come from, you know, good behavior can come from anxiety too.
Okay, interesting. You know, that actually could be a significant part of it, because I don't think it was ever maybe so bad where it caused other problems. So maybe it was like a healthy amount of attachment, but especially at the beginning. So I got her. She was 8 weeks old. You know, like I think recommended minimum for a puppy to be living without the mom. I take her home to my apartment at the time. I spend one night there. The next day, I get arrested for having weed, and I get a fucking whatever it is, like a eviction notice on my door the next day. I got to move out, and so from that day, you know, she spent one night in that room. And then over the next like 14 months, I moved like 7 different places. And so there was all these changes of environment, of scenery, of people, but I was the one constant throughout this. And so I do feel like we developed such a bond where she just trusted me so much, no matter where we are, where we go, she just had this like deep trust for me. And like, to your point of like, maybe it was like a semi unhealthy connection, especially when we were still living at the apartment. I would leave and maybe, you know, a friend or a sibling or something is over at the house, and while I'm gone, Molly's just sitting at the door like waiting for me to come home.
Yeah, won't eat.
She can't enjoy herself when I'm not there.
Correct.
Yeah, so
there's a little bit of that for sure. And then there also is, you know, to the point of lots of change, right? That's one of the reasons why grabbing that leash is so actually helpful. Right?
Yeah.
Is you did a lot of the things but without the intention behind it and the awareness behind it.
Yeah.
Right? So you developed a level of like, oh, this guy makes a lot of change in my life.
Yeah.
Right. But then we didn't go a step further and knowing like, oh, I know that making this change is actually healthy for our relationship as long as I can like use it.
Yeah.
Then now we can build a bond that makes sense. And now I can leave and you're not just standing at the door and you can be like a normal dog.
Yeah. She could just relax while I'm gone.
She could just relax. Right. So it becomes, it all kind of comes full circle of inducing stress in your daily life versus like just letting it happen.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's a good point too. Maybe like it's like similar to kids who've had super tough childhoods often can become ultra successful because they had this really rough upbringing. They have, whether it is something to prove or maybe all these skills that they built unknowingly throughout this time. And now they become something great. And like the opposite of that is like a really coddled kid who just becomes a total fuck up or a loser.
Pressure builds diamonds, right? It turns into a battle of your own mental toughness of whatever is happening, right? The difference with the dog now is that they don't have the choice to do anything unless they're free to do whatever they want, but they don't know what to do. I mean, they're not at this point. They're not creatures that are going to be able to survive out in the wild for very long. They'll get hit by a car or something.
They're not making tools or
exactly.
building fires.
Yeah, exactly. We don't live in a place where they can just catch food and they're going to scavenge eventually, and that can also kill them, right? So there's just so many things that they need us for. So creating that change and something as simple as creating the change with the leash, or as silly as it sounds, like feeding your dog in a different spot in the house.
Oh, really?
You know what I mean? It's like all of a sudden,
it's like, what the hell?
You immediately just become more valuable to your dog because they don't know what you're doing next, and then now doing it with the intention. Versus just like, oh well, our life is just changing.
Yeah, right.
Now, go ahead.
I was just gonna. That made me think of like something that was inducing stress that I for sure would do, and I try to do with any like it's with a cat when she was a kitten or any like young animal is like give them something that they really like with the dog, like a steak or something, and then take it back
and then take it away. Yeah,
while they're eating it, and I always felt like that's really good because I've seen dogs that are fucking I don't know, like just insane.
Oh, for sure.
Once they get some food.
Protective over their food or whatever it is.
Exactly. So I would do that stuff. I'd like put my fingers in her mouth, like play with her teeth. I'd like flip her upside down. That's another thing too. When she's a little puppy, it's okay to flip her upside down because she's so tiny. But I would do it her whole childhood as she got bigger and bigger.
And she would still do it when she's bigger.
She's a giant dog. Yeah, I could flip her upside down and just hold her upside down like a puppy.
Totally. It's actually super... correct. You're naturally just doing that kind of stuff. And you're gonna. It's not gonna.
So it is just that I'm a really good dog dad.
Well, you're somebody who understands how to make progress in something.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Sure.
Right.
That could be it,
and you took it into your dog life.
Yeah.
Without even
I wanted
knowing
her
it.
to be like a really good dog.
Yeah. You had the desire, and with that desire, like, okay, what are some things naturally that I know I want to be able to do with my dog? I want to be able to hold her.
For sure. Yeah. And also too, I knew that like dogs love discipline too. They love when she's being a good girl.
Yeah. I mean,
she loves it.
All of us do, right? It's like I'd much rather look at myself in the mirror after a nice disciplined workout routine than like a nice disciplined cake routine, right? It's like, it's like we love having that.
Well, the cake routine's nice.
The cake routine is nice once in a while, and it's important to have, but it's also important to know that like, if you have goals at least, and if you have goals of living in this world and being able to pick up a pencil, when you're 80.
For sure, yeah, exactly.
You got to have some sort of discipline to leading up to that. Otherwise you can't.
Yeah, for sure. And it seems like dogs really do have like a really good response to praise and like adoration.
Yeah, they respond to everything, right? They're gonna...
More so than cats. Like cats, I just give a fuck what I do, what I say or tell her. Yeah.
So the the interesting thing about that is like to teach somebody like a trick or something, dog, cat, human, little bits of like, oh, you're doing great, and like words of affirmation and encouragement are awesome.
Yeah. But
I think that's something that is also kind of overlooked. That reward is just as distracting too.
Okay, interesting.
Right? It's like, if all I'm doing is reaching for gold, and all I can think about is gold, and all I can, all I want is the prize, and I forget that there's a guy right in front of me that I got to beat him first.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like, oh shit, I forgot he was there.
Yeah. It's like with as far as a dog, if you're giving it a treat every time, and then like you don't have any treats on you, it won't fucking do it.
Yeah, well, it becomes an expectation from their standpoint, and then it also, going back to like the initial point, most dogs are misbehaving when they're excited, right? So it also brings a level of excitement back into the picture.
Yeah, you're like rewarding the excitement maybe.
Yeah, or just building it back. It's like, hey, I wanted you to, like, for example, Joey comes over. My dog, every time Joey comes over, loses his shit, gets so excited, jumps on him, right? Finally, my dog is calm when Joey comes over.
Treat.
Yeah. Boom.
Do a treat.
Like, let's all take shots and, confetti. And it's like too much.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Right. So it becomes something that it's like sometimes the reward can be, dude, let's just chill on the beach. And, Like, listen to the waves, brother.
Yeah, I'm not mad at you. This is good.
Yeah,
this is
exactly.
That doesn't need to be a positive thing. It's just like
it doesn't need to be an
negative.
exciting thing, right? It just needs to be like, hey, this is just enjoy this.
Is there any other like reinforcement, like positives besides like a treat or like words of like, you know?
Sure. So the whole idea behind all that stuff is like it's useful in my opinion for teaching the tricks, the skills, the sit, the stay, the down, all the things that people, which I think is like one of the biggest mistakes people make, is they treat those as the basics versus the understanding of the mind.
Just good manners.
Yeah, the understanding of the good manners, of the mindset, and also the mental health of the dog, right? Like the whole like anxiety. Is my dog listening to me because they're super stressed, or is my dog listening to me because they actually are comfortable in my ability to show them? You know, am I a good training partner?
Yeah, yeah, with your dog.
Yeah, exactly. Like because we're both learning, right? So it's like if I'm rolling with somebody or playing with somebody or training with somebody, I want that training partner to be nice to me. I don't want them to hurt me for no reason. I don't want to hurt them for no reason.
It must be like a mutually beneficial exchange.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't want.
And that is interesting because I do see like, especially little dogs. It seems like to me like that are so stressed. Like I'd never really thought about like dogs' mental health is like maybe malleable, but you do see like little tiny dogs that are like horrible.
Oh, the eyes are about to pop out of their face.
Yeah, they're like losing it constantly. You feel like what a horrible life to lead.
And it's because the life is a life of one that is avoidant of stress.
Yeah.
Like
avoidance of stress.
Yeah, it's like how can we make this dog's life so easy?
Yeah,
right.
And because of that, it gets real stressed.
It gets real stressed about everything that changes.
Do you think that maybe, especially on like the really tiny breeds, there's some aspect of it that like, okay, this originally was a fucking wolf that like hunted for food, and now we've turned it into a teacup Chihuahua that's 3 pounds and can't defend itself against a strong breeze.
You know, I don't think it matters. I think that is something that out of necessity we made all those, like as humans, we kind of created and shaped those dogs to needs of like little Chihuahuas and stuff were on boats and getting rats out of, out of places. Like they all had a purpose.
Oh, interesting. Is that why people originally started making
little wiener dogs and Chihuahuas and stuff like that?
Just to hunt like maybe
like
little
rodents and totally. Every single dog had, they're now the new ones that are coming out now.
Yeah.
less purposeful, but even still, it's not really messing, I don't think, anything up. They're not acting differently because of breeding, in my experience. They're mostly just acting differently because of how we've been treating them. So,
well, do you think that there is an overrepresentation of stressed out little dogs compared to bigger dogs?
Not really.
You don't think so?
I think it's pretty even. Yeah, I think that it just goes back to knowing what you're looking at. And it's like you walk into a room full of people speaking a language you don't speak. And you're not going to know which ones of them are stressed and which ones of them are excited. Just because. You don't understand them.
For sure. You know what also, too, I'm thinking is that, like, a little dog that freaks out or is constantly attacking other dogs still goes out in public, still sees people.
Exactly. You see more.
I see more of them. If you have a big fucking dog that does that, it doesn't leave the house.
Exactly. And that was exactly right. That's my next point is people don't see and they don't talk about that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I got a dog that bites kids.
Yeah. They try to hide it.
He has it, but, he would.
Yeah. One of my favorite kind of little running jokes that I have in my circle of people that I work with and that answer my phone calls with me and all that kind of stuff is that we always talk about, it's like, oh, my dog is so good, but like we get the butt. You don't hear that when you're talking with them.
Yeah, we just say, look at this picture.
Exactly. Like my girlfriend works with me.
Post.
Yeah, she's always answering the phone and I'm listening to how she's talking to them, and every single time, even myself, when I answer the phones, it's like the end of the conversation is always like, oh, but he's such a good boy.
Yeah.
I'm like, you just got done telling me how he like destroyed your life. But it's fine.
But he is a good dog.
But he's a good dog, just so you know.
It's like family. Like they still love him. They want to like tell you like, hey, he means well. But
which is great. You know, he is a good boy. We just need to learn how to communicate with him so that he's not ruining our life anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. So interesting.
Yeah. So it's super, it's just super impactful on people's lives when they hear that it's like, oh, I'm not the only one.
Yeah,
right. Also, because they think because you don't hear about it.
Yeah, I'm just a terrible dog owner.
Yeah, everybody just
and maybe they are.
But they might be sure. But
they think
it's so
they're the
easy.
only one.
Yeah, but it's so easy to get in this like little feedback loop of like, oh, I suck at this. That's why my dog is so bad.
Oh, that's
and then it makes
point.
And then it makes the dog even worse because they can feel the energy you're giving them.
Yeah.
And all that stuff adds up.
Yeah, and also, too, if you are stressed about how your dog interacts in any situation, they're going to feel that, and then when that situation comes, it's going to build up and it's going to play off of each other.
It's a clusterfuck of emotions and out of control scenarios, so that's why it's so important when learning anything, right, to have a level of like learning it in controlled environments first, and then learning it with training partners and having those training partners cooperate with you, and then having them cooperate with you a little bit less if you want to get better, right?
Yeah.
So going back to the whole idea of like rewards and excitement, in my mind, I actually use that stuff more as a training tool to be like, hey, yeah, we're out here. There's something really exciting going on over there. Like there's rabbits and there's monkeys fucking in the tree, right? That's pretty interesting to a dog. Probably they might want to go and inspect it,
check
right?
it out.
Yeah, but if our whole training is geared towards like, okay, how can I, a little bit less extreme, how can I stop you from chasing a rabbit?
Yeah.
Right? If I never can
sort
stop
of indifference to most any like
if I can never stop you from being excited, or I'm always trying to excite you more, now our bond and our connection is so skewed in your mind. It's all about excitement. So why would you ever stop me from chasing this rabbit, dude? We're buddies. Let's do it together.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you love it when I get excited.
Yeah, let's get that fucker, Joey. Come on, let's go.
Yeah.
Right. So it becomes something that's so confusing for the dog.
Yeah.
Right. So now it's like you're not necessarily intentionally confusing them, because like everywhere that you read and everything that you talk about and everybody that tells you is like, oh, like my dog's such a good boy, give him a treat, or they're so responsive to that, which they are, but also you can use that to your benefit of like shaping a dog that you can go on a hike with and not care if you see a deer.
Yeah, or another person,
or
another
another
dog.
person or another dog.
Those are probably the first steps. The deer's like the one that you really don't want to chase.
Sure. We go we reach for the stars here, brother. It's like we're gonna go. We're gonna see bears and not care.
Exactly.
So it's super important.
Well, I mean, actually, a bear. Maybe we could care.
We'll
about
walk
the bear.
away from it though, but we won't chase it, right?
Yeah.
Because dogs will chase it. I mean, you got all these videos of like
I've seen
the Frenchies chasing the bears or the crocodiles out of the.
Sometimes it works.
Yeah, sure. I don't want to be there when it doesn't, though.
Yeah, that's true.
And I don't want it to be my dog when it doesn't work.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. So then it becomes.
But I do want it to be my dog when it does work.
Yeah, for sure.
You can feel it off the bear.
Yeah, for sure. But it becomes something that you could be life threatening, right? So
yeah, exactly.
So building up on it and having that ability to be like, hey, I'm not always just excited with you, and you don't need to expect that from me all the time.
Yeah.
So that's how it'll help eventually shape future whatever life-threatening or not so life-threatening scenarios.
Yeah.
Make your life easier.
Yeah.
Right. And then help you build an awareness of like, okay, what am I actually doing? Not only with my dog, but in eventually my own life, right? Just like when you learn anything, you're like, oh, if I can't stick to this one thing, or I can't do, this one move, and I just keep beating myself up over it. And it's like, oh, well, what else am I beating myself up about right now that I probably shouldn't be?
Yeah, exactly. Huh. So you started with like dog walking initially, and then it was like moved into consultation with Cujos. What does like the business encompass now?
Yeah, so now it's I bought a house. I got a huge yard in the back. I broke it up into. I got like 5 separate like potty yards, and then a big area that we do training, group classes, and set up scenarios. I got like a circle. There's a video on my...
Okay, yeah.
There's a video. Yeah, if you see my Instagram. You'll be like
riding around a little bike around that circle?
Yeah, we ride around a little bike on the circle. Yeah, behind the circle is just, you're able to like walk forever, right?
Yeah.
So,
nice.
So you can create scenarios over and over. It's like if I suck at walking past dogs, you're on one side of the circle, I'm on the other, and let's keep going until we're good at this.
Okay, wow. Huh, that's pretty good.
You know what I mean?
Did you create the circle, or was the circle there?
It was my idea. Yeah, I created it. I put it there. I made it all.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, when I moved in there, it was like a horseshoe arena with a spit roaster.
Wow.
Yeah, they
a horseshoe arena?
Yeah.
Is it a lot of land
like
that
official,
you have?
Yeah. It's like a quarter acre. Yeah,
that's a good amount.
It's a good amount, yeah.
Yeah, the quarter acre is like solid. That's like a really good amount.
It's like a good amount
of land.
I agree. Yeah. So I'm able to, like in my front yard, I got like my little sauna cold plunge set up now for myself.
Nice.
And
backyard's the dog training area.
The backyard's a little dog training area. So I got that all set up. We'll do board and train programs, so people will leave their dogs for 2 to 8 weeks, and we'll cover, the most fundamentals of just behave a little bit better and walk it on a leash to serious cases still that are dogs that are fighting and dogs that are biting and all that kind of stuff.
They do like boot camps basically with the,
so
with the dogs?
It's a full immersive thing, and during that boot camp, people will now. I've learned over time that you can't learn so much in a short period of time. It just doesn't stick the same way that it would if you, oh, cool, like your dog is with me for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Every week your dog is with me, we're still doing a meeting.
Yeah, exactly. That's really good.
Yeah, so we're still doing a meeting. We're basically going through it as if you were doing private lessons, except I'm doing the adjusting of your dog's initial fundamentals and understanding. So that way when you get the dog back.
You know what to do.
Yep.
And it can't be done in a single consultation just for like their memory span.
Correct.
It's not going to remember like all the stuff that you do.
Exactly. And I actually have an online course. So what I do for all the people that come to me live is I give them access to that course while their dog is with me and forever. But especially while their dog is with me so that they can be like, oh, well, these are the things that he's going to be doing. Like there's a whole mindset section on the course that teaches you the random mindsets that are very important as far as like excitement and affection and when do we give the dog discipline versus when do we give the dog ignore them, right? When do we address behaviors, when do we ignore behaviors, things like that, right? So how do we set up our environment so that we can actually be successful? So there's a section there, and then there's like exercises. So there's active exercises, there's passive exercises, there's all sorts of things that we teach them. So I think that it's been really valuable for the students to get that while their dogs are with us.
Yeah. Really important that they actually go through it too.
Yeah, it is.
There's like a certain portion that's like, no, you're the one that's supposed to fix them.
Yeah, yes, there is. Well, it's you maintain it, right? It's like, hey, here's this awesome thing. I just made your Lamborghini run really smooth. Here you go. You're probably gonna have to do it if you want to do it yourself. You're gonna have to learn how to do it or keep. There's always maintenance.
Back,
there's always maintenance, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So then they also get 6 months of group training afterwards, right? So it's like they can come back for some maintenance, for some questions.
Oh, wow.
Things like that. So
that's good.
Yeah, because I now have that set up where I used to not have. I used to just go to people's houses, and if I did group classes, I'd have to be at a park or something, and I couldn't really do the full immersive. So it's adjusted a lot over time.
Now you're able to just do it at the house.
Now I just do everything out of one space.
And so do they live with you this whole boot camp?
Yeah, so they will live with me that whole time.
Like 24/7?
Yeah, 24/7.
Oh,
they
wow.
sleep with us. They stay here.
How many dogs at a time do you have?
I think the most we've ever had, which might have been more than we should have had, but I have 4 people, kind of helping out here and there. The most we had was 20. And that was
20's a lot.
It's a lot, and it was a little. We still gave everybody everything they needed, but it became a very.
It's taxing.
Yeah, super taxing.
Yeah, there's probably a sweet spot of like where it has the most effect on the dogs and the least. You're able to be optimal on your side.
I can live a life,
too.
And I can do what I need to do. Yeah. So we find that like between like 10 and 12 is good with the team that we have.
Nice.
Otherwise, it becomes just.
Where do they sleep when?
I have a room set up, 2 different rooms set up with kennels, and if they're if they can handle having a bed in there and not die, because dogs will eat their beds and and it won't be good. So we let them have their beds. If not, they've got a nice cool kennel that they sleep on. They sleep on the floor anyway at home.
Oh wow! Some dogs can't sleep on a bed because it'll just like tear it up.
Well, they just tear it up and eat it. Yeah.
Oh wow!
And it's just super bad.
Wow.
not good if that gets stuck in their intestines.
Their stomach. Yeah. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. So there's some some risks behind doing everything that we do. I mean, everybody.
You don't let them just like sleep in the bed with you, like all 12.
There's risks to that too, right? Because some of them are coming with aggression. So
and how many dogs do you have? Just like
I have 2 now.
Okay,
so
nice.
Jasmine is still with me. I don't know if you ever met her before, but I got Jasmine.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. So I still got Jasmine, and then I got a new one, Tessie. That's about.
Is Jasmine a pit bull?
Yeah, pit bull.
Yeah. Okay, I remember her. Yeah, and then Tessie.
Yeah, she's a brindle one. She's also a pit bull.
I don't think I've met
Yeah,
that.
no, she's new. I just got her a couple years ago, and she's starting to. She's crazy puppy mode, and she's starting to settle herself in. But, it's we're able to help and provide, for people that have worked with us. We do some boarding if we have the room, and then obviously if you are coming in with a fresh slate and you just want to get your dog from A to Z. A little more efficiently. The camp is there, but some people still do private lessons where we'll do meetings and
maybe just want some basic tools to be able to go do it themselves.
Yeah, or they just whether it's their lifestyle or their funds or whatever the case is, they'd rather do it in a one-on-one setting.
Obviously, a 6-week boot camp is going to be the most
expensive.
It's going
to be a little more expensive for sure. We're working with the dog 24/7, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's living with you, and you feed it and everything too.
Yeah, so they provide the food, but we're still. I mean, it's all stuff, right? Everything takes up time. It takes up. I got to hire people to help.
You got to have 12 different brands of food and know which one gets what.
Know who gets what. Yeah. It's a lot. It's a whole system that has to go through. And people always say, "Oh, you must play with dogs all day." I'm like, "Yeah, it's awesome and cool, but you gotta love the people and you gotta want to be able to help them because after a while doing it over and over and over, it's like, man, it's a lot of work.
Yeah,
right?
it's work.
Even if it's 6 dogs, right? It's still a lot of work. You're still making sure they're all getting fed and doing getting their basic needs met, and then add the training on top of that, and then add the appointments and all that. So it builds up, and I'm definitely looking to build a bigger team as things grow because it just keeps growing, which is awesome.
How many people you got on your team right now?
There's 4 of us, a couple people that are full time, and someone that's more of like I found her on like a dog walking website. I was like, hey, I need a dog walker, and she's like, what's going on here? I was like, oh, it's actually a dog training company, and I need you to help me let dogs potty and keep things organized. So
nice.
So they've been awesome. Everybody's amazing. They're all super, on
Good
point.
people to work with.
Yeah, great people to work with. Yeah, my girlfriend works with me, so it's like great.
That's really nice too.
Yeah, so it's good. She helps out as much as she can, and then she does her own yoga stuff on the side. So it's like it's a really good little dynamic that we got going on. And she loves the dogs, and they come over and she plays with the dogs when she has the time to play with them, and helps work with them when it's time to work with them, right? So
they get a great setup.
Yeah, they get a little bit of everything.
Yeah. So how long have you been doing this total? When we first met, like I want to say I was like 19 or 20. So you've got to be doing it at least over 10 years now, right?
It's been about 12 years.
Oh, so I probably met you pretty close to the original.
Yeah.
Like at the start
you
of this.
were like one of the OG.
The inception.
You were one of the OG, okay, how do I, you actually found me as a dog trainer, I think. You guys actually called me and you're like, hey, we need a dog trainer. I was like, cool, it's working.
Do you remember actually how we originally met?
No, then I don't know.
Well, so were you living at the block at one time?
I wasn't living at the block, but I'm sure I was there a lot.
Okay, yeah. So we met. It had to be at the block, and then you introduced me to your cousin who lived in L.A.
Yeah, cousin Stu.
Yeah, Stu. Yeah, exactly. I met him in L.A. at one point too.
Nice.
Yeah, he's a cool guy.
That's right. Okay, so we met that way, and then I'm sure we just exchanged information.
Yeah, and then I moved out of the block and was in that house and whatnot.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Hell yeah. And I probably just was like, hey, I can help you with your dogs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's probably what happened.
That's basically it. Well, you came over, and by the time we were in the house, we had the pack of dogs.
Yeah.
And that, the pack was less controllable than any individual.
Of course, and it's always going to be, right? It's like that's why riots get started, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, so many people at once.
Yeah, everybody feeds off.
Yeah,
of
we had
each other.
5 dogs in a small house.
Yeah. So I probably was like, oh, this is a great opportunity for me to. How can I help people with more than one dog? Right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I probably took advantage of you.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a cool little, definitely a cool little gig, and now people just seek me out because they, I don't really do any marketing or anything.
Nice. Well, that's good.
Yeah, you do good.
That's probably a pillar of the business that you could look to grow, or just put more time in that part.
A little more time and promotion, if I have the capacity to, right? Because it's like at a certain point you can't take on more dogs, you can't take on more people, so it's like. There's a fine line of like grow the team and then add some marketing so the team can also be supported. I think.
Like you said, like your boot camps only fit so much, so you can only be booked out so much.
Yep, you can only be booked out so much. So at a certain point, it's like it's almost not worth it. But there's little pieces like for the online course, we do some marketing and all that. So yeah, it's pretty cool. I love it.
Nice.
I'm able to do what I love and schedule it as I want, so I can take trips. I mean, I go to Costa Rica for jiu-jitsu retreats once in a while.
No way. Have you gone?
Yeah.
For a jiu-jitsu retreat?
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, with Dan Hart at the Hero Academy over there.
Really? Huh, that's cool.
Yeah, so it's super fun.
Yeah.
Little combo vacation and train with people that you meet from around the world. I do, firearm seminars and stuff. And
wow. What were you like learning or teaching?
Learning. No, I mean, I don't teach anything else besides. I mean,
dog training.
Yeah, I randomly will teach people handstands and random stuff.
Oh,
like
okay,
that,
yeah, you're pretty good at handstands.
Yeah, I've been an acrobat for a while, and I like that, which kind of got me into. That didn't get me into jiu-jitsu, but made it more fun for me, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just want to learn.
Where are you from?
From LA originally.
LA is where you're born?
Yeah.
Nice. I remember also too you are you Iranian as well?
No, Israeli.
Oh, Israeli? Okay, yeah. Because I remember like close to when we had originally met, I think you're a little bit older than us. You gave like your old ID to my roommate.
One of your buddies. We look the same. Yeah, we got that brown complexion and the beard going on.
Exactly. Yeah, something similar. It ended up being taken from him, but it works for a while.
We tried. I was gonna say if it works once or twice, then it's worth it.
Yeah, exactly.
Had a good time with it, probably.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, that's definitely it's been a good time overall, and
nice.
Yeah,
that's really cool. It's cool that you said that like you're doing what you love, and it's interesting that like it started from maybe being like cut off financially.
For sure,
from your parents.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. It was total disaster.
Yeah,
and it was
I like
just
what
out
you
of
said.
Desperation.
Yeah, I like what you said as far as like it's usually. I mean, that could be a big motivator more so than like I've since I was 5 years old, this is all I wanted to do.
Yeah,
I do feel like that's almost. I mean, it seems to be it's much more rare the case.
Yeah.
Like at some point in your adulthood, you figure out that like okay, I got to make money somehow. I got to figure out what to do, and then you just try something, and then a lot of like satisfaction and whatever it is, it comes along the way. It maybe not be like your initial passion initially. Like I'm sure you love dogs. Everyone loves dogs, but like you said, there's so much work to it as well, and it's not all like just fucking playing in a park the whole time. It's not.
Excuse me. To your point, it's like you don't necessarily start something and make money out of it because it's like, oh, this is my dream and I love it.
Yeah.
And this is what I want to do. But it's like, oh, I need to do something.
Yeah.
And then you pick something.
Yeah.
and if you do it long enough, you're like, oh, damn, I'm getting good at this.
Yeah.
And it's like when you get good at something, you start to become passionate about it.
Yeah, exactly.
You're like, oh, damn, not only do I like this, I see the impact it's giving people. And
for sure.
There's all sorts of reasons why it becomes your passion. It's like, oh, I love that I was able to just help, Joey and his gang have their dogs not completely fight each other as soon as they see whatever might have been happening.
You see results.
Yeah, you see results, and then it becomes like, oh, well, you should celebrate your results, but then it's like, oh, well, how did I get those results, right? Let those results be ready for review.
Yeah,
right. Exactly, whether they're good or bad results. Right. So I think that overall, again, just kind of going back to the fact that everything is like principles in life are the same in all on all aspects of life, right? Yeah. Everything is everything. Want to get better with your dog or get better at jiu-jitsu or skateboarding or painting.
You've learned how to get better.
Yeah, you learn how to get better at stuff. So I felt like
try other things.
Yeah. So I felt like I was like, oh, cool. How can I get better at this? And now I got to get better at business. Now I got to get better at
nice.
And it just became super awesome and passionate about it, and just kept moving forward with it.
Well, that's really good. Yeah, I feel like just the words like "follow your passion" or like that saying is like it's not a good saying, because I think what it really means is like don't do anything unless you fucking love it right away. Yeah, and that's really not the case in almost anything.
Yeah, because when you start something, you're gonna suck at it.
Yeah, exactly. Right? You're almost gonna hate it right away.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, even something that could be really fun.
Yeah, who loves things that they suck at, right?
Yeah.
Not a lot of people, but then once you start to learn that, like, oh, when I suck at something, it means that it's good for me, probably.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right? Then there's like this drive, which is what got me into actually like learning handstands and learning all the other stuff. I was like, oh, I can find so many things that I suck at.
Skill build. Yeah. All it takes is just like spending time at it.
I suck at so many things. This is awesome. I can keep growing.
That's like a great mentality. It's like, look at all these things I suck at. I could be so much better at them.
Yeah. So it's the same. And when the more that you have, I think, that mentality, the easier that you do become happy. Like that path to happiness doesn't come from like, oh, how can I get happy? It comes from like, oh, how can I find as many things as I suck at and like
get better at
them. Like, oh, now I'm happy.
Exactly. Yeah, and it is not like it's not like an ecstasy moment type happy where you're just like super engulfed in just the good feeling. It's usually like satisfaction, like fuck yeah, I did that.
Well, it's sustainable, right? Because it's something that you can also look back at as a memory.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, look at this thing that I did, this achievement that I had, and you can share it with your friends and family, your kids later, your grandkids later, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you probably thought like a few years before that moment with like that first like Cujo dog that like just having a meeting with some people wouldn't be all that exciting. But the first time you had this really aggressive dog and you fucking knocked it out of the park, you're like, fuck yeah,
exactly.
Let's go.
And now it's a story, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So and it continues to bring happiness and joy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
right?
For sure. Yeah. Even now, like it maybe I wonder if it would have went really bad. You would have thought like, oh, maybe this isn't for me.
Oh, dude, I got bit up quite a few times actually in the beginning.
Oh, really? Huh.
Yeah. The first one was a little dog, of course. Just freaking grabbed onto my finger, and I was just like holding it, and I was like, all right, well, this thing is stuck to me. But yeah.
So what do you do in those situations? If
everything
attacking you?
Everything depends, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, like, of course, the size of the dog depends. Where the dog is depends. Like, if the dog's attacking a friend of yours or your dog, learning jiu-jitsu is so good for everything. Rear naked choke him, put him to sleep, put a leash on him.
Yeah.
While he's sleeping.
If they're fighting or something.
If it's super bad,
yeah, you got to rear naked choke. I've rear naked choked a dog actually.
Yeah,
from when they're fighting.
If you need to guiguillotine them, if they're like all in you, right, you're gonna take some bites. You're basically in a knife fight at that point.
Yeah,
right. Something that I like to learn a lot of things. So that you learn about knife fights is like you're gonna get
stabbed. Yeah,
you're gonna get sliced up a little bit, right?
Oh, wow.
No matter what. Like
you're practicing knife fighting.
No, not practicing it by any means, but you're learning about it, and when you go to these self-defense things, they talk about that kind of stuff. It's just part of the thing, and there are times where like you do like combatives work, and it's like okay, don't let this marker touch you, or don't let this. You're getting touched. I mean,
exactly. You're gonna get drawn on and stuff.
You're gonna get exactly.
They say like I heard like a explanation at one time that seemed like a pretty good idea. If you ever did have to get in a knife fight, is like if you had a jacket, like take it off, wrap it around one arm, so you got like a stabbable arm.
Sure.
And then get it back after him.
I'm sure there's so many things that you can do, but that sounds like a legitimate one to give you a little bit of body armor.
Yeah. The problem is with like those type of people like start marketing themselves as like combatives experts. That is like in a sense it's too dangerous for real life, and if they were to enter the UFC, they would just kill the person right away. It's like the problem with those things is like you're never going to get a real live scenario look. Like you can talk about like, yeah, in theory, this seems like it works really well, but you're never going to get like develop the black belt skill of like defending and knife fighting unless you're really fucking knife fighting people.
Yeah. Yeah,
Which
and
actually,
they make like shock knives and stuff.
Where it's
So
like,
like when you get touched, you get shocked. Yeah,
that would be interesting.
Yeah, so there's like little things that people train.
Maybe it helps. You know what I thought would be really cool too. I saw some people I was working out at the ASU whatever thing is the like the workout center.
Sure,
over
gym.
there. Yeah, the gym at the on campus, and they had this whole section where people were like sword fighting. I forget the fencing.
Oh, fencing
is the right word. Yeah, with like those long like pointy ones.
Yeah.
Dude, that'd be fucking pretty fun to practice.
Yeah, I mean when you're getting bit by a dog, that's basically what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
You're in a knife fight.
Yeah.
The dog's gonna freaking stab you with its teeth.
Yeah, exactly.
You're gonna get sliced up.
Yeah.
No matter, like I broke up a couple dog
happen.
fights, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool, we're good. And I look down at my leg and it's bleeding. I'm like, oh, okay, not good, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So not terrible, but also it's like, well, I got you.
Yeah.
They got
it's
me.
over. Yeah.
Even though I won the fight, right? I broke up the dog's fight. Nobody got hurt seriously.
Yeah.
Everything was good. I still got hit. So I think that, an expectation, if you are dealing, there are a lot of people that have dogs that are attacking them, even if they own them or their friends or whatever, the expectation that you're not going to get hurt at all is a delusional one.
For sure.
You got to understand that it's going to probably get you, and you just need to be ready to be calm and be relaxed, and maybe get a hose or a bucket of water or something to startle, because it's about startling them and getting them off that mindset.
Yeah, exactly. That's probably a good way too, because like a lot of people respond with like, oh, I just got to beat the shit out of my dog to not let it. Is there ever a case of like little spanking or something is good?
I mean, it's the thing. No. It's got to be surprising if it is anything, right? If it's like straight to the face, it's not gonna, like a little smack to the back of the butt while the dog is like picking up, eating dog shit, and you like you get behind him, you touch him on the butt, and you're like,
I got you.
like that. It's got the shock factor.
Yeah. Same thing. I guess maybe a superior replacement would be the little little air thing.
Yeah.
What's that thing called again?
It's a pet corrector.
Pet corrector.
Yeah. So it's like there's
basically
so many
a dog whistle, right?
It's a can of compressed air like you would clean your computer with.
Yeah. It just had, like lets off like a super
startling
high-pitched
noise.
Yeah. For me, it sounds just like a little bit of air, but for them, it like really. Like hurts the ears, I guess.
Well, it's just a startling noise.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just something they're not ready for. And when it snaps you out of it, it's like,
fuck, what is that?
I mean, the equivalent of it is like, I'm sure there's times where like you or your girlfriend, she's talking to you and you're just busy doing something and you don't even hear her.
Yeah.
It's it's not that you're ignoring her. You just literally can't even hear her. And then all of a sudden she taps you on the shoulder. And you're like,
or smacks me.
Or smacks you. Yeah. You're like, oh, shit, you're here?
No, I'm just kidding.
Right? So it's like, oh, dang, you walked in on me, right?
Yeah.
So it's like that's what it's like for the dog. Is like when they're that engulfed in something, they can't hear you. They can't feel you. Yeah. And if you just start beating them up, it's it's not unlikely going to make them calm down because you're not calm.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, but when you use a tool like a pet corrector, or if you use your a quick little touch from behind, or a splash of water, it's easier to calm down because it's likely the dog is going to respond. So
yeah, maybe that's like people use water bottles for cats a lot too, because it's a little
similar.
Yep. Yeah, because you could say whatever you want to her, she's not going to listen.
Not going to care.
Sometimes she's like in doing something bad. I'm like, JJ, stop. Yeah. She's like, could not care less.
Or can't even hear you.
Yeah, no, I think she can hear me. I think she just
totally shuts it off.
Yeah. Because sometimes she'll just be like, meow, and then get back to it.
Well, like also, it's like you think about, it's a trained skill to be able to hear things under stress.
Yeah.
Right? When you're competing.
I guess it's like, if it's something extremely enticing for them, it could be like you could be very loud and whatnot and like just not hear it.
Well, think about like in jiu-jitsu, I don't compete very much or ever, but
in competition.
You compete. And I'm assuming that when you first started competing, there were things that your coach would tell you during competition that you're like, dude, I didn't hear you say that.
Yeah, that's totally true.
And he's like, bro, I was yelling it the whole time. You're like, what do you mean?
I was yelling, break this grip.
Yeah, exactly.
We're listening.
And you're just focusing on his freaking whatever you're focusing on, right?
Yeah, that's totally true.
So it becomes a learned skill to be able to hear something under stress.
Interesting.
So that's something that, again, is very just in everything in life. Like if you don't put yourself in those stressful situations and then like, oh, well, I know that I want to be coached in these stressful situations. So, while I'm rolling hard, Issa, coach me while we're in the gym.
Yeah, exactly.
So that I can get used to it while we're rolling hard. Yeah.
Or like, hey, I just like didn't listen at all. Now like try to make a conscious effort of listening.
And as a human, you can do that. Like, oh, dude, I hear you in the video, but I didn't hear you there.
Yeah.
Let me change that next time.
Yeah, that's good. Taylor, my girlfriend's really good at that in competition. She'll like just get up and like look
at you.
Say, what? Say it again.
Yeah. So there's some people that are also naturally good at that kind of stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So going back to your older dog, there are some dogs that are just naturally going to be better, you know, better behaved.
She was just a good girl.
Yeah, exactly. Like, they're all good. They're all good girls and good boys, right? We just got to make sure that we give them what they need so they can also be happy and emotionally stable. Yeah. Like you would want for anybody that you love.
Yeah, exactly.
So
nice.
Yeah, man.
Wow. Well, that's really good.
Heck yeah. You want me to give your people a code for online training?
Dude, give them a code. Fucking slap it on there.
What do you want it to be?
Oh, for a no credentials code?
Yeah, man. We can do that. You got listeners, right? People watch this shit.
Yeah, I don't know. Something.
They probably have dogs.
Yeah, right.
Let's hook them up with if they want a
discount code.
Yeah, man.
Huh. Okay. Well, let's talk about that. We'll figure out something good.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay.
For now, it'll be Joey. if we
maybe
change
something no credentials or something.
Okay, sure, no cred.
Yeah, no cred. That was the last one. Was no cred 20.
All right, cool. We'll do no cred 20.
Okay, 20% off.
20% off the online course if they want it.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay, nice. All right, awesome. A really official sponsor of the pod.
There we go. We'll give them a no cred 20 Balancing Paws online dog training course. This is an 8-week course. Just takes them through.
Yeah.
What they would if they were coming to me privately.
So is that where they can find you? Is it balancingpaws.com?
Yeah, so people can find me balancingpaws.com, Instagram at balancingpaws. I don't have any other stuff. I mean, I have Facebook, but it just all, shares with it. But anything Balancing Paws, you can find me. Yeah.
Nice. Awesome.
So we'll hook them up if they want it. If they need dog help, obviously there's a lot of free random shit that I give out on Instagram.
I feel like you just dropped some good dimes on this as well.
Yeah, man, of course. You should be able to do everything that we talked about. Right now.
Yeah, that was like instantly implementable.
You don't need to change your life.
They don't even need you.
Yeah, they don't even need you for that. Yeah. For that part.
Yeah,
definitely
for that,
not.
for sure.
You can totally just go for it, but you want your dog to come back, going back to all the, basically everything we spoke about, right? It's all skill development. Like from the most extreme of like, hey, I'm in the middle of a battle and I need to be able to hear somebody to, well, nothing's going on, but I don't want to have my dog jump on the couch or whatever. We can help you with all
basically
that stuff.
Freak out when the doorbell rings.
Yep. So we can help with all that stuff, and then happy to play jiu-jitsu and do acrobatics and
awesome. Well, I love it, man. I love
do all that shit.
I love people that are just like following a passion, or like you said, it may be something you developed over time as doing it, but really more than anything, like sort of betting on yourself, like something that like I decided not to do a 9 to 5 and just work a monotonous life, but something that like you're trying to create something in the world. You're constantly trying to skill build. You're trying to just become a better person, and maybe through your work. And I admire all that. So
yeah, thank you.
It's cool.
You could do it from everywhere.
Yeah, you can.
So that's the cool thing about life, man.
Yeah, hell yeah. Well, dude, thank you for coming on.
Dude, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks, brother. Oos.